Sodari Sodaralara. This is the Telugu, this beautiful language, which is described as Italian of the East. Unfortunately, I am unable to learn such a beautiful language. So, with the permission of the President, I would speak very few words in English, which I have been told that most of or all those who are present here would be able to follow. Respected Sambra Srinivas, Lakshmaya, Manohar Naidu, Vara Prasad, Chandur, Srinivas, other respected friends and comrades seated on the dais and off the dais. I am extremely happy and privileged for having been given this opportunity to release this very important book written by Justice Nagmohan Das, a retired Justice of Karnataka High Court, explaining the importance of the constitutional values as enshrined in the Constitution of India. Justice Nagmohan Das, while highlighting the important aspects, the secular, democratic, and republican values enshrined in Indian Constitution, he has also very judiciously and carefully highlighted the threats that are coming towards this very same secular, democratic, and republican values enshrined in the Indian Constitution of late. Not only during the last 10 years or so, when there is a paradigm shift in the ideology and philosophy that governs the powers that be. But since the mid-80s, there has been systematic efforts to propagate certain values in the name of values according to those who advocate this argument. They say that the Indian Constitution doesn't represent the Indian traditional jurisprudence. So these forces, this communal and revivalist forces, they say that the Constitution which was adopted following detailed debates in the Constituent Assembly after we having achieved independence, that Constitution should be done away with or drastically changed to make Indian Constitution, quote unquote, a constitution which follows, quote unquote, Indian tradition, which in short is what is embodied in Manusmriti. When the Indian Constitution Assembly was about to finalize the Constitution of India, after prolonged debates, threadbare debates, presided over by stalwarts of India's freedom struggle, participated by those who led the freedom struggle against British imperialism, and a scholar like B.R. Ambedkar as the chairperson of the drafting committee, that content of that constitution debate was known outside. So RSS mouthpiece, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh's mouthpiece, organizer, wrote in black and white that this constitution which is going to be adopted by Indian Constituent Assembly has not taken any inspiration from Manusmriti, which is the most scholarly work enunciating how a society should be governed. This is the oldest ancient wisdom, according to them, which originated in India. There is no need here to elaborate all those things. But those who have been advocating this argument that Indian Constitution cannot be considered to be, quote unquote, India's Constitution because it has nothing to do with the ideas of Manusmriti. In Manusmriti, what is there, we all know. The essence of Manusmriti, there are various things. But the domination of 1% of the Brahminical exploitative social order and all other segments, there is a hierarchical system where the topmost Brahmins and Kshatriyas, who are the rulers, they will dominate, and others who take care of the rest. Then Shudras in Chadur Varna, Chadur means 4. Under Manusmriti, they speak about 4 Varnas: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and then Shudras, who are the lowest in their ladder. Each segment from the lower ladder should serve the upper segment. Now, what about scheduled castes, scheduled tribes? Under Manu's consideration, they don't need to be considered as human beings. They are outside the system, Chaturvarnya system. They are outside the mainstream. They cannot come in front of anywhere else, in front of others. This is most rotten, inhuman system, which now these forces who opposed secular, democratic, egalitarian, republican Constitution of India, these forces now would like to replace the present Indian Constitution through a process. They won't say that we want to replace it with Manusmriti, a modernized, reinterpreted form of Manusmriti, they would. What are the symbols? First symbol is putting the Shangol in the new Indian Parliament. Shangol represents royalty, not democracy, without any shame. Indian mainstream media also accepted it. Now, the biggest danger that is faced by our country is the manner in which various arrangements propounded by Indian Constitution to safeguard the secular democratic content of Indian Constitution, these are being undermined. Our Constitution begins in a most democratic and most beautiful manner. It starts with we the people of India. Of course, those who have studied constitutions of the world know that there are other countries also where such ideas and phrases are there. For example, the Constitution of America, the Federal Constitution of America also refers to we the people. It is there in American Constitution. Indian Constitution makers studied all the constitutions in the world, most of the constitutions in the world. French Constitution also embodies similar ideas in it. In other countries also, I don't want to list all the countries. But so far as the usage of we the people of India in our constitution, there is a very interesting incident in the Constituent Assembly. Some people some members in the Constituent Assembly argued that we should commence our constitution with a reference to Almighty God. In the name of God, we discuss and adopt this constitution. That argument came. Then, Constituent Assembly, if you count how many members of the Constituent Assembly were rationalists or atheists or believers of this God or that God, I am very sure. Even you can speak about agnostics. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru cannot be described as a atheist. He is in many places, he is a rationalist, and with regard to the question whether one believes in God or not, there are people who would say that that's not very important for me. Maybe there would be God, but I don't find any logic or reason to believe in God. But I don't say that there is no God. I don't want to speak like an atheist. Maybe there would be God, may not be. So I am not very concerned about that. Such people are, I am not giving a nuanced interpretation, but generally they are called agnostics. Vadigal. I think some Sanskrit words are, available in many Indian languages. So the point is, when one particular member in the Constituent Assembly demanded that the Constitution should begin its narratives in the name of God, others who believe in God also said that I believe in God, but there are people in any society who may not be believing in God. They may have their own ideas about God. We know we are people, we are here, so we can start in the name of people. And in the Constitution, there should be provision to believe in God, and those who don't believe in God, like Charvagas. Charvagas were there in Indian tradition. And Lord Rama, while being in forest, he was met by Lakshmana. Then one of the first questions Lord Rama asked Lakshmana was whether Charvagas are happy, well, and satisfied in our country. This is what Rama was asking. So Rama was very concerned about the plight of Charvagas, whether they are properly treated or not. So Charvaga tradition, Sankhya tradition, Logayada tradition is part of Indian tradition. So in the Constituent Assembly, others said, no, we should start the Constitution in the name of people, we the people. The person who argued that it should begin with in the name of God, he insisted. When he insisted, others said, let us not bring God into a division. Division means voting. Because if some member keep on insisting his demand or his amendment to the Constitution, then the chair will have to take a vote. Those who want Indian Constitution to begin with in the name of God, please raise your hands or voice. Those who want the Indian Constitution to begin with in the people, we the people of India, please say ayes. Like that, voting would be required. So Ambedkar and Pandit Nehru and all that, they said, no, let us not divide the Constituent Assembly, those who are for God in the constitution, that and those who are against God in the constitution. But the person who argued for God, that constitution should begin with a reference to God, he insisted and demanded a division, forced a division in Constituent Assembly. You know the result. Majority members of the Constituent Assembly said that Indian Constitution should begin, we the people of India. That was the history of the Constitution making. Now where do we stand? Many secular democratic content which any citizen in modern world should feel proud about, such content is being assaulted in India. That is why Justice Nagmohan Das has been compelled to write this book. I don't want to go into the content of that book. I wish you buy one copy each to read it. But that is not enough. You should buy one more copy and you should present that copy to your dearest friend. This is what you have to do. It's such a valuable book. Somebody would ask, this person is speaking without reason. To present a book to my friend, I need to require only one book. I will read it and then I will present it. That also is a logical argument. But I disagree. This is a book which you can read and you can present to another friend. But this is a valuable book which you should possess, you should keep. You should occasionally read and discuss, refer. Therefore, minimum two books you should buy. One to be read by you, to be kept in your library, the other to be presented to your friend. A big threat that is coming to Indian Constitution and Indian legal system is the poison of communalism and the poison of unreason spreading into different layers of our society, and even members of the judiciary becoming victims, willing victims to the poison of unreason and poison of communal hatred, majoritarianism. Very recently we heard a serving Justice of Allahabad High Court. He went and participated in a function of Vishwa Hindu Parishad. Vishwa Hindu Parishad is a communal organization. And they were also party in one of the biggest unconstitutional crimes committed in the history of independent India. That is the destruction of a place of worship, Babri Masjid. Okay, serving Allahabad High Court Justice decided to go and speak in the meeting of VHP. If he speaks some reason there, and if he advises workers of VHP not to engage in unconstitutional communal activities, maybe you can exonerate that High Court Justice. But what did he do? In that VHP meeting, he spoke like an RSS Pradarak. He is still a serving justice of Allahabad High Court. I challenged him to pull me up and summon me to Allahabad High Court for having said this. I am criticizing him openly. What is the name? Shekhar Yadav. Anyway, his name is quite unimportant. He spoke like an RSS Pratarik. Comrade Brinda Karat immediately wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of India. Because he has been violating Indian Constitution. Not only by participating in VHP function, but he spoke there like an RSS Pratarik, stating that The words of the majority community is what is important, and that is what should be implemented. This is what Madhava Sadashiva Golwalkar wrote in Bunch of Thought. Other details of his rubbish, nonsensical speech, I don't want to relate here. After Comrade Bundakarat's letter to the Chief Justice of India, we read something about the collegium asking this Allahabad High Court judge an explanation, and he was asked to make a public apology, blah, 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 but nothing much had happened. Some paper reports came. That's all. Then some of you should be thinking now, why the speaker has gone after only the High Court judge of Allahabad. Why he did not say anything about the just retired Chief Justice of India, Mr. D.Y. Chandrachud. What did D.Y. Chandrachud do? He had full 2 years as the Chief Justice of India. Generally, this 2-year term is considered to be a long term for a Chief Justice of the country, because generally 1 year, 1.5 years, half an year, like that. And generally they are not being given extension also, Chief Justice, due to a variety of reasons. When Justice D.Y. Chandrachud was elevated to the Chief Justice of India, people have had mixed expectations about what he may do and what he may have to do. He was giving judgments in a very clever manner. He was too clever. At times, in the case of some bail applications, he would pronounce a judgment, giving democratic-minded people some hope. Then some other more important matters having long-standing importance for the future of Indian democracy, he had given very controversial, disappointing judgments. For defending democracy, we are compelled to question some of those judgments. With Mr. D.Y. Chandrachud as a member, not as Chief Justice, as a member of the Supreme Court bench, Ayodhya case verdict was delivered. In a rare manner, the author of the judgment, even when that judgment is on behalf of 5, 6, 7, or it would be a bench consisting of many judges, but the authorship would be generally recorded, who has authored, and others have concurred. There would be dissenting judgment also possible. There can be separate judgment concurring with the main pronouncement of judgment, but having other separate reasons. Like that we know. Judgments can be of different nature. But it's very, very important, historically important judgment on Ayodhya. They chose not to put the name of the author of the judgment. Then they had a celebration in a 5-star hotel after pronouncing that judgment. I don't want to dissect that judgment. Communist Party of India, Marxist, issued a brief statement where we stated that there is a judgment given on Ayodhya case, but there was no pronouncement of justice in that judgment. This is what CPIM said. Left parties generally took that position, CPM, CPA and other parties. Judgment delivered, but justice not delivered. For example, in that judgment, that is a very clever judgment they wrote. Destruction of Babri Masjid was a crime. Therefore, those who destroyed it, they are criminals. But that place has been handed over to these criminals. This is the judgment. It's a very clever judgment. And now, though they did not put the name of the judge who actually wrote for others, somebody has to write. That name has come out now from D.Y. Chandrachud, not officially. He said that to write the judgment on Ayodhya issue, we were having lot of doubts. Then what he said as to how he overcome as the author of that judgment the doubts that he was encountered. What did he say? You remember? I sought the guidance of the deity to pronounce the judgment on this issue. Mr. D.Y. Chandrachud, you have lowered the prestige of Indian judicial process in an irretrievable manner by uttering this nonsense. You are a Supreme Court judge. Later you became the Chief Justice of India. When you have some confusion about how a judgment is to be pronounced, you have to consult Indian Constitution. That is the oath of office you have taken. Now you have publicly stated that when you are encountered with some doubts how I should pronounce this judgment, I just discarded my oath of office that I will uphold Constitution of India. That I discarded and I have gone and fell in the feet of the deity to get guidance. Who is that deity? Does Indian Constitution speak about a deity? Mr. Chandrachud, you have to explain. No. Indian Constitution permits you to believe in deity, Allah, God, Lord Shiva, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Jesus, Allah, Buddha, Guru Nanak, and even Satya Sai Baba. Anybody you can believe. You have the freedom. But you discharge your responsibility as a public servant holding some constitutional position. You cannot say that Satya Sai Baba advised me to pronounce this judgment. Can you say that? That is what you said, Mr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. Shame on you. I am so sorry to say this. This is a very dangerous situation in our country. Indian Constitution very clearly says the right and duty to protect Indian Constitution. It is primarily vested with Supreme Court. Supreme Court is the constitutional court. If any state legislature or Parliament of India pass a legislation, if it appears to be in contradiction with the provisions of Indian Constitution, Parliament or Assembly which passed that legislation would claim, no, this is in consonance with Constitution. But citizens, media, legal luminaries, they can say, no, this is not in consonance with the Indian Constitution. Such situations would come. Then who is to adjudicate on this? Who is to say whether it is in consonance with Constitution or it is not in consonance with Constitution? Therefore, we declare this particular legislation null and void. We cancel the legislation. That authority lays with Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court is the custodian of Indian Constitution. That Supreme Court is violating the spirit of the Constitution in the pronouncement like Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. Supreme Court by and large used to protect Indian Constitution. There are many instances Supreme Court coming to protect the Indian Constitution. For example, electoral bond. They went to court. Supreme Court declared that electoral bond is unconstitutional. There are many instances. Supreme Court coming in defense of constitutional values. But when Justice D.Y. Chandrachud stated that I wrote willy-nilly, indirectly he said he wrote, by saying that he had to consult deity. These are occasions when who are supposed to protect Indian Constitution turn out to be those who undermine Indian Constitution. We are living through a very critical situation. When those who have been given the responsibility to protect Indian Constitution by Constitution itself, that is Supreme Court, if they fail in their duty, what is the solution? There is solution. That is the beginning words of Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution starts by saying, we the people of India. So, if Parliament fails Indian Constitution with a brute majority for fascistic forces in Parliament, they can also undermine Constitution. Then judiciary, it may also cave in. So finally, there are forces still to protect the democratic, secular, egalitarian and republican constitution in India. That force who should come forward to protect the Constitution of India is the beginning two words of our preamble. We, the people of India, we have to put our strength together and defend Indian Constitution, its democratic, secular, progressive traditions. There are some other values also in the Indian Constitution. Not that there are not areas where we need to critique Indian Constitution. Every Constitution needs to be critiqued after 24 years. That is the general understanding. After a generation's time, every Constitution needs to be taken forward, but not backward. So in India today, there are forces trying to take Indian Constitution backward. With all our democratic might, we should resist this. With these few words, I conclude. Thank you very much for your very patient listening.